You've all turned up, so you guys are total legends. Firstly, I want to say thank you for turning up today. I'm really excited about this webinar, and I've decided to do this off the back of the Property Council of Australia's Retirement Living Summit, which was all about baby boomers, and I was really quite excited about that because that, of course, is not what I do. I specialise in marketing to baby boomers. So what I'm going to do now is I will share my screen and let's just get to this webinar. Here we go, sharing screen. All right. So what I might do now is just, we'll go through the slides. Let's hope that it will, there we go. We'll go through these slides. What I might do is take questions at the end, just again, because I'm flying solo, and personally I find that a lot more helpful when I'm on my own. I'm very easily distracted with chat, so if that's all right, I will do that. But welcome and thank you to the Retirement Living Customer Journey with Baby Boomers. And I wanted to make this a really practical exercise where you actually get to take something back to the office. And I also want to reward those who turn up today. So just a bit of housekeeping. So what I'm giving you today is really awesome content with a little bit of a pitch at the end. I will state that now. But I'm actually going to give you a lot of my research. So when I do my webinars, I don't send the recordings out. So I want to reward you by turning up. So I'm recording today, but if you guys have to go off to a meeting or do something, do send me a personal email. I'll give you that at the end and I will send you the whole recording if you want to watch the end of it, if you want to rewatch it or show it to your colleagues. So that's basically what today is all about. So thank you. I'll talk a little bit about who I am and why you should listen to me. Of course, who are the baby boomers and how they're different to perhaps current residents of retirement living, and some of the common sales and marketing issues that we come up with, and objections and barriers that I've uncovered in the research. And I think you guys, because you're in this space, you're marketing professionals within the retirement living industry, you might already know a lot of this stuff. So what I say with research is that it's a lot of 80% is just confirming what you already know, but 20% of it may be stuff that you don't know. So let's hope to get a bit of both today, but I really strive to get something that you can take back and implement straight away. So at the end, I have 5 quick wins. So a little bit about me. I have been researching the over 55s for the last 20 years or so. So I've worked in marketing strategy and research for a lot of that time during the travel and tourism industry. And obviously COVID hit and I had to explore other verticals. And there's a lot of similarities between the travel and tourism industry and retirement living in that sort of we're promoting a certain lifestyle and certain things like that. But that's kind of where I came about. So I have researched the previous generations to baby boomers, so they're your current residents, and also baby boomers. But I've become a specialist in baby boomers and I'm about to tell you why. It's a total numbers game. So I'll talk a little bit about who they are first and what all the fuss is about, and then how we can target them, market them, and just how different they are to the previous residents. So I tend to start with this one always because I think this visual depiction is really awesome around who baby boomers are. Now, this tells the story of Australia's birth rate. And as you can see here at the beginning, during the wars and the post-World War baby boom is here. So what happened is all of the men from, that fought in World War II, from all the Western world, not just Australia, but America, Europe, and also Japan. What they did around this time is they came back home, millions and millions of men that had been away for years. They all came back home to their girlfriends and wives, and what happened was lots of shagging. And that's basically it in a nutshell. So therefore, we have the baby boom. So the baby boomers were born at the end of World War II. That's how it happened. So you can see this huge spike in babies being born here. And this is their parents here, their current residents. So you can see there's going to be potentially a big demand and potentially not. We'll talk about that in a moment. But the thing is, we will never, ever be here again. We will never, ever have this number of people retiring at any one time ever again. And that's because there's a contraception pill. So you have a look here, the pill came into play in the late 60s. So women could shag all they wanted without getting pregnant. And you can see there's a rapid decline in Australia's birth rate. And this is a global story. This is something that happened all around the world. So frankly, we will never have this opportunity to market to this number of people, to next point, with this amount of money ever again. It truly is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So we've got that number of people, and we've got this wealth chart that shows us how much money they have. It's a little bit outdated. I have not updated it yet with the current census. So we've got these guys down here, the builders, the builder boomers, which are your current residents, and also these two here are your current baby boomers. But you can see, you know, gone by age, they're much more wealthy. For obvious reasons. They've been around a lot longer. They've accumulated wealth. They've accumulated investments, and what they don't spend will actually be transferred down to their kids and grandkids down the track. So they're either going to spend it or leave it. And this generation is really in the spend it category, and their parents were kind of more in the leave it category. And, you know, we'll talk about some of the differences here. So when you look at your current sort of previous residents compared to the new baby boomer residents, there are some key differences. And that is sort of around life expectancy. And I talk about retirement as generally being a really outdated concept. You know, the term retirement came about in the late 1800s. And it came about in Germany during the Industrial Revolution, when all the men worked hard labour in factories, breathing in toxic fumes for their entire life. They'd work the whole day, 7 days a week, come home, and that was their lives. So in Germany, they brought in a plan where they would pay for 1 year. The government and the business would pay jointly for 1 year for their employees to be at home before they died. So retirement initially was you go home for 1 year at about the age of 50. Between 50 and 60, you could take leave from your factory and go home for a year, sit on the couch and pretty much die soon after. And we're still doing this, but we're living for 30 or 40 years beyond retirement. So it really is a completely outdated concept that doesn't relate to how we are, because we're living well into our 70s, 80s and 90s now. And, you know, there's a lot of differences, obviously, but, you know, this generation of boomers compared to the last generation, their parents are, for example, they're more interested in, you know, purchasing enjoyable experiences, peak experiences. They're interested in accumulating memories and experiences with their families rather than possessions. And if you think about their parents, you know, they were kind of tainted by the Great Depression. So they were either sort of born into it and lived, you know, do have early memories of being very, very poor, or their parents were. And these are a lot of your current residents. They have that real frugal sense about them because there are remnants of the Great Depression in their DNA somewhere. And here we have the complete opposite hedonistic generation of baby boomers. So it's like a clash of generations that are completely different. And again, they're not concerned with living long. They're concerned with living a high quality life. So they're interested in, you know, much more interested in their health and fitness and well-being, travel, and a whole range of things that their parents were not interested in. So I'll just take a drink. Now their mum and dads, the ones sort of in their 80s and 90s now, were very frugal in retirement. They stopped their spending. A lot of them did this anyway. So boomers are not stopping spending. They're not even reluctantly spending. They are spending differently for different reasons. They are spending, you know, on themselves, traveling, on their kids, getting healthy and fit, their appearance, a whole range of things. So if you think about it, going back to the term retirement, this guy who's, you know, 50 plus, dapper looking dude, back in the day, in the late 1800s, when retirement first came about, he would be 6 foot under about now, but instead he's taking off on his A380 after COVID on a well-earned break. Okay, so one of the things that I noticed and I came across at the Retirement Living Summit was people said to me, I'm not really interested in baby boomers because my village, we tend to attract the over 75s. Well, guess what? Your 75-year-old is a baby boomer. So you're getting the first lot of baby boomers coming through your places right now. And what the Property Council of Australia census told us is that the average age for the retirement living resident is 75. So boomers are now aged between 58 and 76. So they are just entering the retirement market. So when people say to me, I'm not interested, I want to attract over 75s, this is who they are. You can't stop it. Nature intended for this to happen. So whether you like it or not, whether you're targeting them or not, they are coming, lots of them. So I guess, you know, it's really important for you to have a think about who is your ideal boomer customer. What are some of their characteristics that might be a little bit different to previous generations? What's important to them right now? And in our research, in the Marketing to Baby Boomer Blueprint, we talk about putting some of these theories and themes throughout your marketing. So not just talking about your product or service or your place or your new spanking kitchens, but talking about facilitating some of these things that are important to them throughout your marketing, because it shows that you really do understand who they are. The number one important factor, and you know this by far, is their family and grandchildren before everything. So if you can show how to facilitate these things in their lives, where in your place, you are on a winner already. Obviously health and wellness, travel's a biggie. Probably after the grandkids, travel and pets are the most important things. You know, and these guys have hopes and dreams for retirements, whereas their parents pretty much retired and played a bit of golf, did a bit of travel, but, you know, it was about resting and kind of, you know, just taking it easy. These guys aren't taking it easy. They're ramping life up. They have unfinished business. They have grand plans. And you need to show them how you're going to help them achieve these things. You know, they might be working still, semi-retired, fully retired, single, divorce. Now, divorce, for example, the highest divorce rates in Australia are people in their 50s and 60s. 97% of those divorces are driven by women. So these sorts of things really need to be addressed in your marketing and collateral. Don't shy away from it. It shows you understand them. And the other reality is you're not just competing with other, you know, retirement living options. There's that much development going on. There's, you know, upsizing, resizing. So people are actually just kind of switching up their homes, staying at home, home care. The other thing I love, the other trend that I love to see is that some of them are actually moving overseas. It's cheaper. It's warmer, and there are countries really, really targeting Australians for this right now. Come and live 6 months over here, or come and retire over here. You know, places like Thailand are really gearing towards it. You know, their medical facilities, they've got their own sort of retirement villages over there. You know, it's easy to live in other countries. It's much cheaper to live in other countries. The other thing that's happening more and more in the area that I live is that I live Bayside in Victoria, close to the beach, big blocks of land on old houses. You have families that have been living there for years and years, don't want to go. They don't want to leave the area because that's where all their networks are. So you're having these companies in facilitating what they're calling joint ventures, bringing people from suburbs, other suburbs away from Bayside, in with the people that live, say, on a big block of land with an old house, knocking down the house, building dual occupancies, and then that allows family number one to stay in their house. It actually increases the value of their property from what it was before with the old house and the bigger block, and they get some cash as well. So it's not just sort of other villages anymore. So some of the more common sales and marketing problems that I come across, from people like you, professionals like yourself, is that we see a lot of poor leads. The lead quality isn't perhaps as good as what it could be. I hear that you don't have budget for research and insights. It's not readily available. And so often people say to me, I have a feeling that this is the case, but I'm not quite sure. There's also the struggle with creating content on a regular basis. I hear this a lot. So what do I put in a blog? What sort of images do I use? What sort of socials do I use? And then there's the unconscious bias. There's a lot of unconscious bias in our marketing towards the baby boomers, or just the over 55s in general. Just letting our sort of preconceived ideas make way for our marketing campaigns, not evidence. So these are some of the things that I see sort of daily. So this is why it's really important to fall back in these situations to research. And I've been working on the customer journey for not just retirement living, but also travel and retail for baby boomers for a very long time. And I've come up with a model of, what decisions need to be made from a sales and marketing perspective, at each stage that, the customer's going through that same journey. So I want you to imagine, especially with this product, that your ideal customer or resident will settle in for hours and hours on end, potentially hundreds of hours researching, downsizing, upsizing, resizing, moving overseas. This is what happens. This is a reality. And we focus so much on the sales process, but not the marketing process that comes before. But let me tell you, your residents will spend far more time on the internet looking for content, researching, analysing, so much more time than they do with the salespeople. This is the most underestimated part of the customer journey for retirement living. And it's not unusual, as you know, for it to be 2 years or more. So what does it look like? What does the customer journey look like for retirement living? Well, this is, this is the model I've come up with. So it's quite complicated. It's not straightforward. But by being here today, you get an insight into what is going on way before they pick up the phone. And that's the bit I'm going to concentrate on right now, because I think you guys are pretty good at the sales process and sales outreach. So, doing the site tours, doing the events, the purchase side of things, I think that is pretty well taken care of. But where you can really forge a competitive advantage is the stuff that comes before. So the hundreds of hours of research that they're going to spend way before they even pick up the phone. So, the first stage, they're sort of dreaming or thinking about downsizing. It's sort of in the back of their mind. People do it around them. They might have had a neighbour that did it or a cousin. They know that it happens. And then what happens, as you know, there's a trigger. There's something that takes them from thinking or dreaming about it into actively researching. And then this is where, number 3, they will sit and do their hundreds of hours of research into all the different options. And like I mentioned, it's not just retirement living, it's other options as well. So this is probably the most important decision they will make for the rest of their lives. It really is. So again, think of how much research they're going to put into it. The thing about it too is they've got time. If they're retired, they've got a huge amount of time on their hands to do this. So they will. It's almost like a hobby. If it's a high involvement purchase like this, or, you know, I see it with travel as well, they'll spend literally hundreds of hours. In fact, they won't stop researching ever if they're travellers. It is really important, and people do not give this bit the credit. And then there's the sales outreach. So let's go through what happens at those first 3 stages. It all starts with Google. Every single stage, no matter what stage you are looking at, it all just starts with Google. And you know that yourself. If you're looking for a restaurant, you're looking for a locksmith, if you're looking for a new couch, fridges, you will get on Google yourself. So why wouldn't these guys? So pretty much universally, baby boomers are on the internet. They are tech savvy. They are much more tech savvy than we give them credit for, but that's a whole other discussion. You know, and research for these guys, because they're readers and they want to know a lot of information before they make a decision, information minimises the risk associated with making that decision. And you've got to remember, this is the biggest decision they'll ever make in their lives, besides marriage and probably their first home. In terms of sitting on the internet, researching stuff in general, COVID made that happen sort of faster than if we didn't have COVID. So they'll sit there and they will just search for hours on end. Now, the one thing I really want to drive into you right now is that Google and publishing content needs to be your priority, not social media. Social media, yes, necessary, but by far, research shows the majority of your web traffic referrals comes from Google, not Facebook. So this is where you need to keep, you know, concentrate. And really, you know, it's a lot harder than social media, but this is all about creating content and making sure that you've got enough information on your website that they trust your brand, that you can finish up in the final repertoire. Some research here from Statistica on social media. Now, I want to point out that boomers and seniors are not on Instagram. You might be, but they are not. Yes, you've got a smattering of them do. They are on Instagram, particularly the travellers, because they like to look at the photos. But baby boomers, Facebook, yes. YouTube, yes. And your secret source is Pinterest. They love Pinterest. It is a fast growing platform, and it's actually not a social media. It is a search engine. So it gives you double the amount of power. So if you don't have a Pinterest account, do it right now. So you should be taking the effort from Instagram onto Pinterest. And it's a very visual platform. It's a platform for hobbyists predominantly and people that have got interests. Now, what that means is that you can talk about a whole range of things like downsizing, like furniture, and, you know, what do I get rid of? What do I buy new? There's so many things that you can talk about as a retirement living company around downsizing, grandkids, everything's related. So obviously the first part of that customer journey is the dreaming stage. So as I mentioned before, they start thinking about it. They know it's in the back of their mind. You know, it's happening around them. It's often a subconscious thing. They're sort of in that age where, you know, you might be thinking about retirement, or maybe even a friend has actually moved to a village. Now, the trigger is really important. This is when the dream becomes a reality. So what's the customer doing? Well, they're moving from dreaming to taking action. So they've gone from thinking about it to thinking, I'm going to explore this part. They stop imagining their retirement and downsizing and start doing something about it. So again, there are certain triggers. A friend's done it, it might have popped up on their Facebook. They might have gone to visit a friend in a new village. There might be divorce, or there might be government policies such as the downsizing, you know, the recent downsizing superannuation contributions as well. There's a whole heap of triggers that make them think, okay, I've got to do something, I'm going to look into this. So as your job as a marketer is to have a think about it, and at the trigger point is just to be there when they are thinking about it. So at the trigger point, this is the very first time that they will hop onto Google and start researching retirement living. So they may not be retargets yet, so they're just new. So if you can get into this stage early on, you've really, you know, you're really at a competitive edge there as well. So, and on the remarketing, as you probably know, that we're losing the ability to remarket in a year or so anyway. So this is where building this content out is really important. So as a marketer, your job is to think, how can I capture them at this stage? So FAQ sections are really good on the website, just basic information. You could do a double referral or a referral system. You know, there's lots of those in this space. Content on divorce and how you can help. I mean, it sounds brutal, but this stuff's really helpful. And ensuring that your content is searchable, relevant, and useful, helpful content at this point in time. So examples of triggers, you know, Ryman, you've seen their ads. They've got beautiful ads on TV. I might have seen that. You know, it could have been a post on downsizing.com.au. Or a trigger is, oh, the ship. You know, they want to take a big, massive holiday that's going to cost $50,000. So I don't know if you've seen how much these luxury sort of trips to the Antarctica cost, but they cost a lot of money. So, you know, it could be even, I've got to, you know, get some cash, liquidate, sell my home so that I can go on my dream cruise. So it's not just about you and your property, it's about other stuff going on in their lives. And again, content that recognises this as well, you know, talk about this stuff, that if you sell up and come and move in with us, it's going to free up cash so that you can go on your dream travels and dream trips. You can lock up here and go. And by the way, we're only 20 minutes from the airport. That type of information is really important. Planning, the planning stage, number 3, planning and research, is where basically this is the most important stage of the customer journey. Again, much more important than that sales outreach, picking up the phone, lead generation, because this is where they're going to spend most of the time. This is where they're going to cut you out of the repertoire. So if you don't cut it in this area, this section, you won't even get to the sales bit. So this is so important. So literally, as I mentioned, they will spend hundreds of hours here researching options of downsizing. You know, it could be travel as well, you know, lots of things happening. So most of the time is here, and it really is your secret sauce. So if you can really focus on the planning and research stage in your marketing efforts, you're going to kick some goals and you're going to make it, say, to the top 3 repertoire. So you need to think of it like a diamond, this process. So what they're going to do is maybe, you know, look at 50 options or 50 variations of what they want to do when it comes to downsizing, or just this stage in their life. At the end of this stage, they've cut that 50 down to about 3. How do you make that 3? You need to have helpful, relevant, genuine content so that they trust your brand. You really need to know what you're talking about, and let them know that too. You know, this is a generation that's been advertised to for the last 30, 40 years. And in the blueprint, the Marketing to Baby Boomers blueprint, talk about they've got high bullshit raters, these guys. They know when there's BS going on. So you need to be really factual. No airy-fairy language. You know, they don't really care about your mission and your vision. They just want to know what's in it for them. So thinking about how you can be really helpful and make it from the 50 options to the 3, because it is those 3 that they're going to pick up the phone to. So now you can see how important this bit is. You know, they'll spend hours looking at reviews. They'll go onto YouTube. They'll be making Excel spreadsheets with all, you know, all your options on it. So it's really important to do things like, you know, create as much content, address some of the barriers, content scenarios, look at things like your email marketing campaigns, Pinterest, you know, content around functional and emotional benefits. So what we find is that, you know, you're really, really good at stuff like selling the resort. So those beautiful lifestyle facilities, you know, some of those luxurious pools, there's the wellness centre, there's the clubhouse, the amenities, pets, children, all that. We do this really, really well. But where we can sort of, I guess, ramp up is more the emotional stuff around what does it mean moving here? You've got community, you've got friendships, you know, you'll never be lonely. So, and single people don't really talk about that stuff, but by addressing it in your content, you know, it is actually one of the things at the forefront when they're going through this stage as well. You know, fixing things and anything like, where are the pubs and clubs, the cafes, the airport, how far is the airport from your place? Where's the Bunnings? Things like local theatres as well. So stuff going on, interesting things, weekend markets, all this stuff that you can really put on your website, your content, and then, you know, push it out via your socials. So some of the objections, as you know, that they come up with, but again, there's no reason why you can't write an article about this or put it on your website. I often get, oh, this is something my parents did, or I don't want to live with a bunch of old people. And God's waiting room's a good one, or it's a bunch of busybodies. Rip-off merchants, that one comes up a lot. You know, you're only worried about your profits. So there's all these objections that you probably need to address and tackle head on. And I think that there's a lot of confusion between what's aged care and what's retirement living. And this one needs to be addressed as well. There's, you know, obviously a massive difference, but, you know, especially the younger baby boomers, ones in their 60s, they really don't know the difference between aged care and retired living and, you know, retirement living. So again, just having some fact sheets around what that is, because retirement living is about the fun side, the fun part of retirement. And then at the end, you've made that final cut. So if you've made it from the 50 to the 30, you are awesome. So at this point, what are they doing? They're picking up the phone. They might, you know, start asking questions on the online chat. They might fill out a lead capture form, an outreach form, and they'll start asking questions. They might want to make a booking to come and view your property. So what is your job to do? Is it easy to connect? Well, so often it's not. Often I find it's really hard to actually get a phone number to call or an email address. I don't know what it is. It's like there's it's gated almost, the contact, and sometimes people, you know, just want to get on it straight away. So you need to have your contact details on every single page and post. That is one of the things that you need to do. So don't make it hard for people to contact you once they're ready. You've got to respect that to get to that final bit for them to contact you, that's pretty special, particularly when they've spent so much time online looking into everybody else. So, yep, this is where they're at. Again, don't necessarily make it hard. In terms of information, is there any reason you need to know all of this stuff? Can't you just do first name, last name, you know, maybe the property that you're interested in? The more information you ask for, the less likely they're going to contact you. So there we go. So as you can see, it's complex. It's not straightforward. It's not starting from sales outreach to here. Most of the work happens here, 1, 2, and 3. But we focus so often on 4, 5, 6, and 7. The site tour, the purchase, and a little bit of post-purchase stuff, you know, with our welcome packs and so forth. But really, this number 3 is where they're sitting for most of the time. So here is where the opportunity lays. So some of the things, there's a whole heap of stuff in there that you can probably take back to the office. But I think if you wanted to go back and just sort of have a think about how you want to put some of this stuff into plays, what are the main objections that you get every day? And create responses for them and just pop them up on your socials or your website. Your destination information, what's around you, what can I walk to, what are the restaurants and the cafe, where's the pub, where's the bus stop, all that sort of stuff. You know, email, do you make it easy for yourselves and your customers? Do you have an automated email sequence that they can go through, you know, to build knowledge and information on your product? How detailed is your content? So maybe a little content audit where you go through and you have a look, because they want to know every nook and cranny. You cannot put too much detail in for these people. So the more detail you have, the better. And again, it just builds that trust in the relationship. And again, ensure you've got a contact information on each page. It's something really simple that you can do, you know, because they might just have a quick question that they might want to ask. They may not want to go through the big sales process, but they may have a couple of questions on your facilities or, you know, school holiday programs or whatever that they want to ask, and that should be okay too. So pretty much what do we do? So what I do is I've created a product called the Marketing to Baby Boomers Playbook. And so what that is, it's everything you need to know about selling and marketing to your ideal baby boomer customer. And it's based on my 20 years of ongoing research. So I am researching baby boomers all the time, day in, day out. That's what I do. That's what I love doing. So I've put all that research into a playbook. So it's not actually a research report. It is just a playbook telling you what to do, where the eyeballs are, what type of content to create, what images to put in, what images repel. And it's all about helping you increase quality leads in 90 days or so without increasing your spend or your research budget. So basically it's consolidating everything you do to make it much more effective and efficient from a marketing perspective, because these guys are different. They're far more demanding than your previous generation of residents. Some of the companies I've worked with, I'm really proud, for example, to have Google as a client. Yes, Google want to know about baby boomers as well. I work with, you know, with every state government. I've worked with Australian government and brands like Cunard and Ingenia as well. So in the playbook, what do you get? So it is sort of in the report format. So I've broken it down into 3 sections. Marketing insights. So what that means is that you get 18 actionable insights that you can go off and create content assets off the back of this. So it talks about Pinterest, it talks about the type of content that you need to create, it talks about the imagery that alienates and the imagery to use. Imagery is so important that we get it wrong so often. Family, life stages, and also time. These guys have got a lot of time on their hands. They're time affluent. So some of these threads and theories and trends that you can weave throughout your marketing. It doesn't have to all be about the functional benefits, like I said, the kitchen or the clubhouse. There's other things that are important to these guys too. So here we go. If you're interested in purchasing the Marketing to Baby Boomers Playbook, it's $5,000 to buy and you get the full report. It's 20 years of research, current research I might add. And as a bonus, what I'm giving people here today is a half-day workshop or consulting with me, one-on-one with you and your team. So what I would do is I would come in and I would help you through the customer journey and workshop with you at any point that you want. So we could go through and work out what to do with your brand. So that is the bonus. I don't normally give this away. I usually charge an extra $5,000 for this half-day workshop because there's a lot of pre-work that goes into that, and support. This is another thing people love, is that I'm available pretty much all the time for continued support. So if you just want to ring up and go, Bronwyn, what's this image like? And I'm going, yep, that's it. Or no, get it off, use something else. If it's no more than a 15, 20-minute call, I'm okay for that. I'm not going to charge you squillions of dollars for consulting. Sometimes you just want to pick up the phone and run something by me. That's totally okay. And that's how I love to work with my clients, because I want to work with you. I want to make sure that you really get the benefits of this research and have awesome campaigns. Because for me personally, I have no doubt if you work with me, you will have a competitive edge against your competitors for sure. And of course, there's a 30-day money back guarantee as well. So I really don't, this has never happened, but if you wanted your money back, it's absolutely fine with me. And that's it. So thank you, everybody. Here are my contact details. So if you want to have a recording, again, you guys are the only ones that are getting this recording. Feel free to let me know. Here's my phone number as well. Please write that down, 0408 225 766, bronwyn@newyoungconsulting.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. So please also connect with me on LinkedIn. Now, what I'm going to do is have a look. Does anyone have any questions for me? I'm going to stop my share. Questions. I don't know. I can't see any questions. Hang on. Questions. Okay. Who can see your messages? Who can chat? Let me just try and, okay, raise hand. I can't see any questions, but that's highly unusual. So maybe everyone just loved it, but I don't know. Hang on, let me just, I'm so sorry. So panelists can chat with hosts and everyone, attendees. I don't think I've got any questions. So, oh, great session. Thanks, Emma. Yes, I can see comments. Anyone? Thank you. I've got a few of you here. Are you sure you don't want to ask anything? I'm happy to take everyone off mute, maybe. Let me figure out how I can do that. I'm going to take everyone off mute, allow to talk, and I don't know, can I do that? All I'm getting is thanks. Okay, questions are coming through now. Be brave, come on. I'm curious to know how to attract baby boomers when the village residents are much older. That is, you know, I reckon I'd become an absolute millionaire if I had the silver bullet for that question. That is a problem. I'm not going to sort of sugarcoat that one. And that is one of the key barriers. I don't want to live with a bunch of old people. So I guess at this point in time, you need to recognise the problem. And so, Michelle, what's the average age of your residents? Can you let me know? I'm imagining in the 80s and so forth. So average entry is 78, but average age is mid-80s. Look, again, you're not far away from that. So what I would say right now is start preparing, you know, your product offering. 78 entries, not far off 76. So those baby boomers, the older baby boomers, have more in common with your current residents than younger baby boomers. So I would probably just start being a little bit more dynamic in your advertising. And one of the things that I have come across is that one thing that they always say to me, residents, is that I wish I had done this earlier. Can somebody please do a campaign around I wish I'd come here earlier? I've not seen a campaign. But, you know, again, if you're a lot more dynamic in your content and your branding, and that you show that, you know, well, 78 is not far off 76, and they'll be thinking about it when they're in their early 70s. So, yeah, I hope that helps, but that is a big problem. But, yeah, I just taking with the imagery, this is where imagery is really, really important as well, Michelle. So what happens is that we tend to, a lot of people that I've worked with like to use their local talent and their residents as talent, because they say to me it's more authentic. If I'm 68, I don't want to look at those images because that reminds me of what I'm heading towards. So if you are going to use local talent, make sure that you have them professionally styled and do it properly rather than DIY styling from Rockman's. It sounds really brutal, but, you know, making sure that it's professional. Attracting the missing middle. Who is a missing middle? Is that the missing middle baby boomers? Or the Gen Xers? There is actually a problem, and I don't have a solution to it, of attracting people in their 60s into the retirement living. And I actually think there is a true product disconnect between what retirement villages are right now to what they're going to have to be down the track, because we're talking about two completely different specimens. So baby boomer, yeah, well that's a whole separate discussion. But it's also an opportunity. I don't know if you were at the Retirement Living Council where, I can't remember the lady's name, she got up and addressed it. She was absolutely awesome. Where, you know, there is an opportunity for the missing middle to actually perhaps buy into some of these places, because their superannuation, for example, might allow it. This is if they've been employed. But those who can't afford to buy a quality home are not really sort of part of it. It's a different discussion, to be honest. And it's a different problem for the government that I do recognise is there. Okay, any more? Thank you, everybody. Let me just see if I have any more. Great session. Everyone can hear me. I'm just going through. Here's one more message. Oh, thank you. That's all right. Well, at this point in time, unless I have nothing more, please feel free to contact me, email me. You can just ping return on the GoToWebinar invites. It'll come straight to me. I'm really appreciative that you all stayed to the very, very end, because it is a webinar and I know how hard it is sometimes to hang in there. So thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it, and we'll do this again very soon. Take care. Bye.